Welcome to Winding Down with Autism, episode 2, Signs of Delayed Development. I appreciate all the subscribers, all 23 of you, the likes, the comments, the emails, the questions that I've received. And I really, really hope that this show can be a blessing to many, many more. Before I start the episode, Signs of Delayed Development, I've received a question this week. And it actually segues perfectly into what our topic is. And the question was, if I know someone that I believe has a child with special or exceptional needs, we'll say exceptional needs, what should I do? Like, as their friend, what should I do? Well, one thing we do know is that your child is your most prized possession, right? You are very protective of them. Before you even have children, you think of all the things that they're going to do, right? That you hope that they would do, all the activities you're going to support them in. What are they going to be like when they grow up? And so when coming to a friend and talking about something may not be quite right, it could be a touchy subject, right? So that brings me to signs of delayed development. So it was 2013. I always like to give you a frame of reference. Ray Lewis sadly said that he would be retiring after the playoffs. And that same year, we moved from Dallas to Spring. And I worked about 2 miles from home. George worked about 2 miles from home. And we had a new in-home childcare facility that George Jr. would be going to. And we were so excited. Miss Tamira, she was a former childcare director. She just had lots of great energy, and she really, really connected and bonded with George. And so we decided that's where he would go. So after a few weeks or a month or so, I can't remember exactly how long, Ms. Tamara brought to our attention that she had some concerns about Georgie. And she had a son that was approximately the same age as Georgie, and they just weren't on the same page. And I'm thinking to myself, well, it's nothing wrong with my son. In fact, we just had our 24-month checkup, and every box checked off on the MCHAT. And so we're good. Plus, he was born 10 fingers, 10 toes. He could hear, all of that. So thanks, but no thanks. I don't need your advice, right? So, when somebody says something to you, you start to think like, am I missing something? Did I not see something? Right about that time when I started to pay close attention, I noticed that skills that George once had, he had lost. So for instance, saying the full-on grace at 24 months, meaning I'm praying over the food, you are the star of the show every time we eat, because it's so cute to hear you say it, right? So he went from that point to mumbles. So instead of, Lord, thank you for this food that we're about to receive, it was more like, And I go, okay, quit playing. Like, okay, I need you to really. So after days and days and days, I'm thinking, no, he's not kidding. Then his behaviors, right, started to regress. And so instead of him walking and running around, he would crawl to us. Lots of things that I thought were strange. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and give my pediatrician a call. So actually, I didn't get to talk to the pediatrician. I talked to the nurse and said, hey, nurse so-and-so, can you check the MCHAT for us that we did just a few weeks ago? I know he got his 24-month shots, and I actually have some kind of concerns about his development right now. And so what she tells me is that, on the MCHAT, everything checked out. You said that he was meeting all his developmental milestones. All is well. I said, okay, so that's not happening right now.
Mommy?
Yes?
Daddy trapped me.
He trapped you?
Yes, he did it.
Oh, well, tell the people how you feel about that.
Sad.
Tell them.
I feel sad.
Come tell them. Say, I feel sad that Daddy trapped me.
I feel sad that Daddy trapped me. But I want to make the other
I hope you brought
pictures-
yours.
I want to make the other pictures plastic.
Okay, sounds good. Can you laminate those for me? Okay, thank you. All right. All right, so anyways, I'm sorry about that delay. So anyway, so this is a real show, like real crap happens. So obviously, I'm not in the studio. I'm at home. So I talked to the nurse, and she said, "Well, everything checked out fine." I said, "I know what I'm saying, but what I'm saying now is that he is like murmuring words now, and I'm also saying that he is crawling." And she repeated to me what I said again. Well, you said on that day he was. And I'm like, I know what I said that day, but what I'm saying this day is I'm seeing him go backwards. So at that time I didn't know the term regression. So I go, I'm seeing some signs that he's going backwards. So she goes, okay, well, bring him in and have the doctor look at him. I'm sure he's fine. So of course, quickly, I told George, his dad, and he was like, sure, take him into the pediatrician. She goes, oh, he's just a boy. He's fine. And I'm like, I know you just checked him out like recently, and this is like not the same kid. Like his attention, like eyes were not where they were supposed to be. I'm like, this is a concern. So, but in the back of my mind, right, she had told me something I wanted to hear, right? My son, he was fine. So I kind of took that and I said, okay, go back. I'm just going back. I'm going to tell Mr. Mira, oh no, the doctor says he's fine. So she tells me I have ECI scheduled to come next Wednesday. So they'll be here to evaluate him, basically whether you like it or not. And I'm looking at her like, how dare you? But that probably was one of the best things that she could have done, because as a child care provider, right, they are obligated to identify children who possibly would need some not exceptional, but additional support, right? Because ECI, they service children from 0 to 3 years old. So you definitely want to get in that window if you can. So that was a blessing that we were able to get in that window. So we go there and I tell her, hey, okay, obviously ECI is going to find nothing wrong because the pediatrician, hey, it's an MD. She says that all is well. So at the same time, Cadence is having starting her softball career. She still plays softball, starting her softball career. And there was a nurse there. And she goes, have you ever had your son evaluated? And I'm like, well, by this time, we know the parents, right? This is a grandparent. And she goes, have you ever had him evaluated for any developmental delays? And I slide over because I'm like, oh, somebody else sees it. And I slide over and I go, what do you mean? Like, what do you see? Like, do you see something? Like, does it look like something wrong with him? Like, I'm paranoid at this point. And so she goes, well, I want you to go by this pediatrician's office and have this doctor, just give you some feedback. So I go, oh, no, that's actually the pediatrician's office we go to. And so they actually told us we're good to go. So thanks, but no thanks. Again, denial part 2. And she said, oh, well, what's your provider's name? And I tell her the provider's name. And she goes, well, no, not necessarily that doctor. I need you to go see this doctor. So schedule an appointment, go see this doctor. We walk in, we check in. I'm nervous, right? And I'm thinking, hey, third time's a charm. They're going to tell us once again, all is well. This is all in my head. Somebody's got something wrong. So we walk by the nurse's station and I see this grandparent here that connected us with this provider, and she just kind of gives me a wave and I'm thinking like, I'll show you when I come out. So we come out, we go in and the doctor goes, I am not a diagnostician, but here's a referral to someone who can help you. She immediately referred us to a neurologist, and that is where we started evaluating George for delays. And so it didn't take her 2 to 3 minutes to notice something, obviously, that we didn't notice, right? So we are going to the neurologist, right? We have this schedule, we're going, and we're thinking, hey, this is going to be some legit information to tell Ms. Tamira that there's nothing wrong. At that time, we just definitely didn't know what the signs were. And so what I want to share with you today is what are some signs of delayed development and what do you do? All right, so delayed development does not have to be, your child does not have to be autistic. I know it's 1 in 68, but everybody wants to say, yep. Mm-hmm.
They didn't get plastic. They didn't get plastic.
They didn't get plastic?
How do you make them plastic?
There is a laminate machine in there.
I know, I'm using it.
Okay, so did you stick it in there?
Yeah.
With no laminating paper?
Where's laminated paper?
Hold on one second. All right, so I'm back. Alrighty, so I had to stop and get some laminating sheets because it is important that we print things from YouTube and laminate them. Okay, so as I was stating before, your child does not necessarily have to be autistic. This can help you with a child with exceptional needs, period, right? So when you're thinking of in terms of signs of delayed development, you're thinking any speech delays, any cognitive delays, anything with communication. You're thinking physical delays, like they're not walking steady when they're supposed to, all of those things. So what you would do is, so for instance, speech delay. If your child is 2.5, 3, and they're not saying like two to three words, so like mommy milk, just kind of monitor that, right? It could be a delay, but make sure that you're very intentional about the language that you're using with your child. So when you're handing your child something, you definitely want to say, mommy, milk, milk to George. So you want to, I know those 2-word sentences, you can use full sentences, right? But if you're just starting out and that's a concern of yours, you can try that. A huge sign, we went to an autism conference, my husband and I, George and I, and one of them is that if the baby's not smiling, so back up, by 2 to 3 months or 6 months, the baby is not gaga goo goo smiling at you, that could be a potential sign. Also, when your child is older, say they're 3, they're going to preschool, and they're not responding to loud sounds, even if they're not responding and you're calling their name. So you might want to check, kind of get behind them and say, hey, George, just to check their hearing. If they're still not responding, that's a concern, maybe not of a disability, right? Not like a delay, but it could be that they might need hearing aids, right? That they might have an inner ear issue, something like that. So all of those little bitty things are important. Also, when they're babies, right? You want them to be tracking you with their eyes. So if you're moving an object across, you want them to be able to follow that. So if they're 2 and 3 years old and they're not tracking you, and if you disappear out of the room and they really don't care, if you hide, they don't look for you, things like that, those could be possibly signs of developmental delays. Also motor development, right? They're not holding a bottle, they can't walk steady, and say they're 2 years old and they're still not quite walking without falling down and they have some balance issues, that could be a concern. So don't wait. Definitely get with your pediatrician. So what do? You say, okay, you just gave me a bunch of random facts, Tori, like what are the exact things? The frame of reference that I usually refer people to is the CDC website. So it has developmental milestones for parents and families from ages 0 to like 6 years old. So what you do is you go to the CDC website. It's called Milestone Checklist. You select your child's age. Don't go up. So for instance, if your child is 2 years and 6 months, don't pick the 3-year-old checklist, right? Because then you're going to just scare yourself up, kind of like when you check Google and you're like, oh Lord, I got a headache and a stomach ache. Don't do that. So get the one that is their age. So if they're 2, this is what they should have mastered by the end of 2. So you go to the 3-year-old checklist. These are the items that they should be mastered by the end of 3, right? That is like a priceless tool. So if they're in preschool, daycare, anything like that, you want to take that list, right? You want to take the checklist once you filled it out. This is if you have concerns, right? If you don't have concerns and you feel like my child is developing beautifully, then don't worry about it, right? But if there are some concerns and you kind of like got to raise the eyebrow, like, I wonder, or somebody has mentioned to you, or your child care provider like mine mentioned it to me, but I was like, nah, we good. That might be something that you want to use. So you want to fill it out. There's a box or area over to the right-hand side that says, these are some red flags. Like if this is not happening, these are red flags. So you take your checklist, recommendation only, not a doctor, take your checklist. You also give one to the child care provider and you can say, I just want to check on my child's development, see how they're doing. How are they doing in class? Are they paying attention? I mean, paying attention as much as a 2, 3, 4-year-old can do, right? And then give them the checklist. And if there are some consistencies, right, across the board, of what you're not able to see, then that could be a reason that you take that information to your pediatrician, and or you can talk to your child care provider about contacting what used to be ECI, right, early childhood intervention through the state of Texas, but it's now called Easter Seals. So you definitely want to get with Easter Seals prior to the age of 3, because at the age of 3, that's when your public school system takes over, which is amazing. In the coming episodes, we're going to be interviewing some of George's PPCD teachers and some of his early childhood teachers that had the biggest impact on him and his development once we got that diagnosis. So that's what you do. You go there, you check your developmental milestones, share your concerns with your pediatrician, collaborate with the teacher. I'm going to say that again. Milestones, pediatrician, communicate with the teacher. That's going to be the best thing. So now that you have those developmental milestones or those checklists, and what do I do if I sense this? I want to go back to the initial question is, what happens if I have a friend? I would definitely wait till they bring it up. If they ask your opinion, you can refer them to hey, I heard about the CDC has a developmental checklist. You might want to check that out. Don't diagnose. Don't say, I think your child has autism. I think your child has Downs. I think your child is deaf. No. Don't do it. Don't do it. If anybody out there is an educator, those are the kinds of things we cannot absolutely say, because all of a sudden it'll be like, well, the teacher told me he had autism. No, just don't do it. Don't do it. And that will definitely, it will not only set you off, but it will put you on just a rabbit hole of stress and trying to find answers to something that you may not need the answer to. All right. So now that you have those, I hope those are solid for you. You need to go through a period of acceptance, right? Like, this is a possibility. It is a possibility that my child may need hearing aids. It is a possibility that my child may need glasses. It is a possibility, like my son George, that he needs insoles, right, for his feet. Don't run from it. That would be my advice to you. The sooner the intervention, the better. I mean, George has been in therapy for 5 years, and I hate to say it, but I look a lot at RJ, Holly Robinson Pete's son, and I look at D.L. Hughley's son, and I try to look at Tony Braxton's son, and I try to compare him, right? Because I'm always like thinking ahead, where's my son going to be when he's 10, 12, 14, 15? And so, because he has been in interventions or therapies for 5 years, he is so far ahead of those children who have parents that say, I'm going to either whoop it out of him, or he's going to grow out of it, or she's going to grow out of it. I would say, when in doubt, definitely reach for those outsourced resources and support. And Easter Seals is a free service provided by the state of Texas. And if you're not in Texas, there are federally funded programs for early childhood interventions in your state. So you definitely want to check on that. So acceptance, you want to accept, because once you accept, then you can, right, spring into action and get support for your child. The next thing is strength. So who is it that you're going to lean on? Who is it that you can trust with this information, that they're not going to say, girl, something wrong with her son? Or that's not the point. You want somebody that's going to be there to support you, that's going to let you cry, that's going to help you if you need to take your child to appointments. That you need definitely a circle of trust, and somebody that, if you're a praying person, that you can pray with, that can touch and agree with you. All of that's really, really important. And last thing. So say you do get a diagnosis like we do with George. The next episode is called The Diagnosis, so check it out. You're going to want to talk to those people that you interact with, right? And you don't have to do family meeting style. I need everybody to come to the house. I got an announcement. No, you don't have to do that. These are happenstance conversations that you're having when you are when your child is interacting with a specific set of people. So for instance, if I'm taking George to my sister's house for the weekend, well, this was early on, he's doing well now, but if I'm taking George to my sister's house and I know that he doesn't sleep at night, which he still struggles with. I know he doesn't sleep at night. I know he throws things because it's sensory, right? I know that he screams. I know that these things happen. I need to have that conversation with my sister. Hey, I'm going to send him with 2 to 5 milligrams of melatonin, which actually my neurologist just said it's good to go. I'm going to send him with 2 to 5 milligrams of melatonin. You're going to need to give that to him about 8 o'clock so that he can sleep through the night, right? I know that he has his headphones, his sound minimizing headphones that'll help him from just getting upset and throwing things, right? I know that he likes lots of blankets on him at night. That's going to help him calm down. Our occupational therapy has us do deep tissue presses, right, on him. So we're pressing just to get his body to calm down. Those are kind of things that you need to communicate what works for him and what's pertinent information. And you definitely don't feel like you have to send like a group text message about what's going on. Only those people who are directly interacting with your child. I hope that this signs of delayed development help you or will help somebody you know. Make sure you check out the CDC website. Make sure you collaborate. Make sure you have that circle of trust. And I'll see you next week for the diagnosis, and we'll talk about what to do then. Later. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you next week for the diagnosis. Remember, you can check us out on Instagram at Pursuing Miracles, Facebook, Pursuing Miracles. If you have any questions, email us at pursuingmiracles@gmail.com. Subscribe and like the channel. I see I have 200 views, but I have 23 subscribers. Come on, people. Share it and subscribe. I'll see you next week. Bye.